Welcome to Creator Upload, your creator economy podcast. I'm Lauren Schnipper.
I'm Joshua Cohen. Lauren,
Yes.
your boy got out and about in the town last night.
Again. First of all, I saw you last week, IRL. Everybody was uncomfortable with us like staring into each other's eyes. It was just so funny because we were doing interviews separately and it was fine. And then when you and I had to sit down to do our stuff, I was like, I don't like this camera position. I'm not into the, what is happening? Poor Adam, our producer, was like, it's been like this all day. Like, nobody had a problem with it. And then I had to like stare at you. And I was like, I can't handle this. Anyway, what were you talking about? Where were you?
I was out and about in New York City last night
Tell me where. Tell me everything.
for the Spotter Showcase event.
Spotter. What are those crazy kids in Spotter doing now?
So, Lauren, this is the second iteration of the Spotter Showcase event. Their first time they did this was last year. It was a little bit later in March. People equated it to the upfronts or digital content new fronts back then. Because that's kind of what it was, in that they have a bunch of creators that Spotter works with, high-profile creators, Jordan Matter, Ryan Trahan, Dude Perfect, Kanigra Dion, Rebecca Zamolo, Mr. Beast, Colin and Samir, etc., that were then pitching their products to a room full of advertisers.
Products, you mean videos?
Videos, correct. Their videos, their series, their slate, etc. This year, similar vibes, but with a distinctly different message. And that message was creator TV.
What does that mean, Josh?
I'm so glad you asked that question.
Thank
I
you.
was waiting for you to do it.
God, that
hence
is why they
pregnant
pay me the big
pause.
bucks. Go on.
So creator TV is this messaging that Spotter really wants to make happen, and I am interested for your take on it. So
Okay.
here's how they presented it. Basically, the top 5 platforms generate 200 trillion views per year across
Okay.
4 billion uploaded episodes.
Okay.
Okay? If you filter all of that content down to just the content that's 60 seconds long or more and gets
Okay.
100,000 views or more,
Okay.
you're left with only 242,000 creators
242,000 creators that do. Okay, got it. I'm with you.
that do that.
Okay.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
Now, if you further narrow that,
This is a cross platform, so like not just YouTube.
right? If you further narrow that, and then you're looking at creators who have produced at least 12 or more pieces of content that are 22 minutes or longer,
Okay.
that get 100,000 views or more.
Oh, what are we talking? What's that number?
Do you want to guess?
10,000.
Very close. 7,000 creators qualify.
Yeah, I figured it's pretty small relative.
Totally small.
I'm not mad at these stats because I think it people just talk about how big this universe is, but it means a lot of different things. So keep going.
Totally means a lot of different things. And so those 7,000 creators represent, according to Spotter, 0.02% of social video. Yet they drove over 148 billion views in the US in 2025. And so this is what Spotter says is creator TV. This is how they're defining the terms.
So 22 minutes or longer.
12 episodes or more in 2025, 22 minutes or longer, 100,000 views or more.
Got it.
And that's what they're defining as creator TV.
Okay.
They also have a tagline for it. They're calling it always on, long form, episodic programming. What do you think about this so far?
I think these are interesting stats. I'm just not sure where Spotter fits into this. I mean, Spotter's historical, sole business was back a catalog licensing, and then they got into this sort of tech game where they had this product that they wanted creators to use to make their content. Now they're talking about creator TV, so I'm anxious to hear like how they fit into that.
We'll get into that in a sec. We'll get into that in a sec, but I'm interested first to hear like what your thoughts are initially after hearing like this definition of creator TV.
I mean, we say it all the time. The fastest growing service on YouTube is connected TV. I was listening to the Town podcast actually this morning. It was all about, our friend Rich Greenfield was on it talking about, of course, the Warner Paramount deal. And they were talking about in total, Warner, all of Warner's assets and, if I'm not mistaken, and Paramount's assets make up on linear television kind of 8%, or maybe it's streaming. It would be streaming 8%, and YouTube makes up like 26%. That might be a little bit wrong, the math, but the messaging is that it was like 20-something% for YouTube. So like to that end, if you're talking about connected TVs, you need longer form content. Historically, probably, right? You're probably watching more longer form content on connected TVs versus like shorts. So by that very definition, especially when you're talking about these behemoths, historical behemoths that are kind of like consolidating, YouTube is bigger than them combined. That's huge. So then those folks that are making that longer content are so much even more valuable than even the numbers sort of would suggest. Assuming that those 10,000 folks are probably mostly on YouTube, I would imagine. But yeah.
Lauren, totally agree with you. And just to put those numbers in perspective, YouTube is actually 12.5% of total television viewing. Paramount is around 2.3% of total television viewing. Warner Bros. Is 1.4% of total TV viewing. That's according to Nielsen's Gauge reports from January. But if you look at the percent of streaming viewership,
Mhm.
YouTube occupies 26.6% of streaming viewership, Paramount at 4.9%, and Warner Bros. Discovery at 3%. So of the streaming viewership pie, Paramount plus Warner Bros. Discovery is only one-third, one-fourth of YouTube. So yeah,
So
pretty
this would
staggering difference there.
Yeah, yeah. So how this relates to the longer form content makers, I think is it's pretty significant. Like, I think those folks are gonna be seen as more and more valuable to especially the people that were historically, like, TV buyers.
100%, and that's what Spotter's betting on too. I think that's why they're trying to make this framing and this vocabulary and this creator TV idea happen, because that's who they're talking to. They're talking to a room full of now media buyers,
Mhm.
not the influencer marketing agencies, not the people that solely handle the influencer relationships at these brands, although that's some of what these people might do, but mainly people who are in charge of big media budgets for big companies. And that's who Spotter's going after. And their whole pitch was around their ability to not only find these types of creators that are producing creator TV at
Mhm.
high quality levels, but also the data they have around these creators to know kind of which kind of brands are going to be best fits for them, the relationship they have with these creators. And from a creator's POV, Spotter has access to these brands that they can bring to these creators so they can produce really high quality programming together. And those kinds of relationships can exist in a few different ways. One is integrations of the brand products into the creator programming itself. Another is the creator producing creative for the brand's ads, and then that creative running on the creator's channel. So this is one of the examples. You're on a Pearson video and you're watching one of her incredibly popular installments of the series. I had the smallest suitcase and I went to X place, fill in the
Mhm.
blank.
Mhm.
So she partnered up with Liquid IV,
I'm like,
and then they
is she using the vacuum sort of, the vacuum seal? Because 'Cause I'm using those now and they're
no,
amazing.
it's not at all.
It's
It's
just
like a little toy suitcase that you would get on like
uh,
Temu
oh,
or
sorry.
like
Okay,
a
go on.
or
Because 'Cause I'm
like
using those
Build-A-Bear
vacuum
or
things,
something.
not cheap, like $80 for 2 with a vacuum. It's
Lauren,
genius.
just pack less.
Just no, I don't have to
Yeah, just
anymore.
pack less.
I don't have to anymore. Go on.
Okay.
Not needed.
Because you
Go
wanna
on.
lug because you wanna lug like a blow dryer or
Yep.
or a vacuum cleaner out every time you have to pack?
Listen, this doesn't just happen. Keep going.
So, she partnered up with Liquid IV through Spotter,
Mhm.
and they came up with this creative for these ads where she was gonna make, like, the tallest drink of Liquid IV. Liquid IV is a supplement you pour into your drinks, it gives you hydration, etcetera. And then Liquid IV bought out her channel, and all the ads, or presumably many of the ads, a vast majority of the ads that were running on her channel over that time frame were these Liquid IV ads. And these ads were apparently incredibly effective. A rep from
Mhm.
Liquid IV said that they had a 37% higher VTR, that stands for view through rate, than custom
Mhm.
ads, and that they
Mhm.
saw when these ads were running, like every piece of their marketing funnel, their numbers increased in a positive way.
Okay.
So that's the kind of relationship that Spotter wants to have with not only her, but all of these
So
creators who are
Spotter
producing creator
is
TV.
where does Spotter fit into this equation?
So like you said before, I think Spotter's been many things and had many different evolutions since their inception several years ago. First, they were buying creators' back catalogs. Then they were doing that and also funding creators. Then they started this platform to help creators be better creators. They've since closed down public access to that platform and they just use it internally to provide better data for themselves for this like kind of brand matchmaking service that they're doing. They're a marketing agency. I think influencer marketing agency, kind of even the creators in the room would bristle at that a little bit because they like to think of themselves as creators and not necessarily influencers that are doing this like at scale with kind of anybody. It seems a little bit more selective and refined, hence the creator TV branding. and vocabulary that they want to get out into the world. But I'd essentially say they're a marketing agency, or this facet of them is a marketing agency.
And are the creators seeing results? Like, is it performing for them?
So talking with creators about these kinds of buyouts on YouTube, they can be incredibly lucrative. So if your normal kind of like CPM on YouTube is anywhere from like $3 to maybe in the teens or 20s, when a brand comes in and buys out your inventory, that can be like a $60 CPM, which is like a $40 RPM for these creators. That's what they're seeing. So for every million views that these creators get when a company buys them out, they can be seeing upwards of $40,000 or more, which if they're producing videos a few times a month, they get a
Yeah.
few million views,
Yeah.
that can start to add up very quickly.
Very quickly.
And that's just on the media that these companies are buying on those channels. That doesn't go into the integration costs. That doesn't go into any money that's given to the creator for the creator making the creative, for that brand to have rights to that creative to use on other platforms and more. So I think these deals can become very lucrative very fast.
Okay, Josh, I want to talk quickly about this 2026 Creator Economy report that was published by the Influencer Marketing Factory. A couple very interesting findings from there. So they worked in tandem with Hype Authority, and they found a few things I want to highlight. So first of all, 25 to 34-year-olds are the largest audience segment across YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, meaning Zillennials and younger millennials.
Oh,
Jesus
man.
Christ. That's what we're calling them? I can't. 80% of brands increased or maintained influencer marketing budgets over the past year. Creators are now viewed as primary media sources, which is, I think, kind of piggybacking off of what you were just talking about with Spotter. Like, I'm hearing more and more, to your point about it not being just influencer marketing budgets, that these are coming out of the budgets for creators are coming out of the media buys, which is really exciting in the sense where it's like real dollars coming into this, even bigger dollars are coming into this sort of ecosystem.
Mhm.
41% of Gen Z use social platforms as their primary search engine, which is very interesting. 62% of creators have been creators for 3 years or less, which means we are like not even the grandpa and grandma of creators. We're like literally like we should be dead at this point in creator years. But the majority of creators, and this goes again, I think, again, off of your Spotter stats, the majority of creators are small. So on Instagram, most accounts have fewer than 10,000 followers and only 13.5% exceed 50,000 followers. So there's a ton of small creators. So while this industry is large, sort of the whales are very few and far between. On TikTok, 76% of creators average fewer than 1,000 views per video, while 3% average 10 to 50,000 views. And then 45.6% of creators earn between 10 and 100K annually, which I guess you could say is about sort of like the creator lower to middle class. So, I think there was a ton of talk several years ago about this sort of creator middle class, and I think the most of creators are in even lower than like a middle class tier. There's not a huge middle class to me. This is what this is saying.
So, Lauren, that last point that the study from the Influencer Marketing Factory found that creators making between $10,000 and $100,000 a year has reached 45.6% of creators. That figure is only slightly smaller than the percentage of creators who make under $10,000 a year. So combined, people making less than $100,000 a year is like 93% or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like there is somewhat of a middle class there, but it still feels like a barbell more than
Well,
a
and
kind of
to
curve.
be honest, I feel like I would love these stats to be more public because I think because of the giant whales that everybody thinks and talks about, people think it's easier than it is. People think they deserve more than what I don't even know what deserve means. But I always point to there's a Wall Street Journal article a few years ago about these sort of TikTokers that were like, working hard and they weren't making a lot of money and they were really mad about it as if they deserve something. It's like nobody deserves anything. You earn it or you don't. And I think that, when you hear in, kids today, every other kid wants to be a creator. There's good and bad to that. Like, I think that's amazing because there's all these opportunities, but it's like harder than being an actor. Like, it's like just a traditional actor as it was. Oh, that was always the thing that, quote unquote parents were always like nervous about. But it's like, this is really hard and the chances of success are not very high. And what does success mean, right? Like, if there's one thing we learned last week at SOCOM is that subscriber counts do not matter. It's engagement and audience and how your audience converts. And on the panel that I did, when I went sort of down the line and asked folks, like, what are the metrics and what are the platforms that they're looking at to see sort of signals as to whether or not their creators convert, not one of them mentioned TikTok. If anything, it was Substack, it was email openings, it was owned and operated websites, are they completing videos, and of course, YouTube. Like, it wasn't Instagram even, really.
Yeah.
And again, it certainly was not TikTok. Like, I just feel a little bit, people that listen to this podcast know my feelings about TikTok, generally speaking, Chinese listening device in your pocket. But more than that, I think it's sort of, you know, done great marketing to make people feel like they can sort of be huge and, make all this money and be a creator and share their voices. And it's the hardest platform to do it on, if
Yeah.
anything.
I
It's
think
not
that was a
easy.
I think that was a theme of the event last night with Spotter 2, where they had creators like Jordan Matter, Colin and Samir, Eric, Michelle Correa come up on stage, and a kind of like overarching theme, especially when Colin and Samir were up there, were just there's so much content now.
Yeah.
And there's so much stuff to consume. And monoculture doesn't exist in the same way it did before. And so these creators that have this relationship with their audience, that get this kind of viewership over a prolonged period of time are really rare. And you want to work with them to the best of your abilities.
What's really interesting about that is, like, with those creators that have a really kind of close relationship with their audience, historically they would need like a conference or something to sort of find their audience. And now they don't really need that. You've got Colin and Samir making their own sort of conferences. You've got all these, you've got Jordan Matter with 87,000 people showing up to the opening of the product that they launched. Like, these people have those creators, those few creators that have those really, really loyal, dedicated audiences are building not just like companies, but like these whole ecosystems around them. It's very unique and like very difficult to do, but when they can do it, it's really quite amazing.
Yeah. Especially now there's way more competition than there was before. So easy to be a creator. It's so easy to post stuff online, which is great. And there are opportunities in the niches that are developing for sure. But to have this stratospheric level of creator, I think it's going to be more and more rare going forward. So, Lauren, moving on to our next segment here, I want to introduce you to something that we came up with at Tube Filter. You know how we cover the ecosystem exhaustively, and we also have these Tube Filter charts that are powered by our very own Gospel Stats that look at the YouTube ecosystem. So we see the top 50 or 100 weekly and monthly most subscribed and most viewed channels on YouTube. And there seems to be like a lot of growing consistency between some of those top performers on the platform. You have the Mr. Beasts, you have some of your other regulars there, and you also have a lot of interesting content. One that our very own Sam Gutelle knows intimately, because he's the one that writes up these charts and is just in depth into the ecosystem, and wanted to bring him on to talk about this idea of Kidslop. So, Sam
Oh,
Gutelle, it's a pleasure to have you
good
back on
old,
the
good
platform.
old Sammy. Come
I'm
on.
back.
Thank God.
Tell us about there's AI slop, there's kids programming. We now think there's Kidslop. Tell us all about it.
So slop is just a shorthand term, obviously, that is most commonly applied to AI. But I think what we're thinking of as kid slop is sort of adjacent to the AI slop that gets talked about a lot in the media. And these are videos. They're almost always on YouTube Shorts or other short form platforms. They're clearly intended for children under a certain age. Like, this stuff is too random for a 17-year-old to be interested in it. So
Hmm.
we're
Hmm.
talking about real kids here, which is a whole nother story that we could get into. What we're seeing is just videos that just, to us adults, they just don't make sense. And these videos are all over the top 50 most watched YouTube channels of the week. Stuff that is nonsensical just for the sake of being nonsensical. And it usually involves a soup of IP with different pop culture characters,
A stoop
creators.
of IP. Go on.
So I actually brought an example.
Oh,
It's a channel called GS Vines that we
okay.
had in the top 50 a few
Hmm.
months ago.
Great.
Now, first of all, the name GS Vines, obviously a reference to Vine.
Sure.
And that's already sort of mining a form of nostalgia, that Gen Z has
Uh-huh.
for Vine. But then who are the characters on Gen Z or on GS Vines? It's not people from Vine. It's Mr. Beast.
Mm.
It's Cristiano Ronaldo.
Mm.
It's Tunak Tun from the Brain Rot. You know that guy,
Of
Josh?
course.
Tunak Tun?
Lauren's deeply familiar
Yeah.
too. Everybody
Deeply.
does.
Who doesn't? Weird. Go on.
So it's any character or real person that whoever made this video thinks this is going to be hot in the Gen Alpha algorithm. They love Mr. Beast, they love Ronaldo, and they love these, brain rot characters that you might find on Roblox or elsewhere. You stick them all together, and then you're just favored in the algorithm. And that's how these channels end up getting millions of views, even though, again, to someone of our age, it seems like complete and utter nonsense that you would never understand why anyone is watching it at all.
And there was an article recently in the New York Times that then we picked up as well, this idea of funk music being the background to all this.
Yeah, funk is a really interesting thing. I'm not going to try to sing any funk tunes because
I wish
I
you
have
would.
I have self-respect. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But
Sure.
this is an electronic music genre, sort of adjacent to trap, adjacent to southern hip hop, adjacent to dubstep, just kind of loud, distorted electronic beats, many of which are coming out of Brazil, which is kind of the hotbed of funk.
Uh-huh.
And you can imagine a music genre that is random, that is in your face, that is loud, that is in a sense nonsensical. It's the perfect soundtrack for these types of videos, which is how we found that recently the top funk producers are getting more YouTube hits than Taylor Swift.
But these are effectively compilation videos. So in terms of a monetization, there's they can't monetize these, right? Like whoever's putting these together, because if you're telling me there's clips from Beast and all these other folks,
Well,
this is not licensed stuff, right? Am I missing something?
Well, they're not supposed to be monetizing, perhaps, but whether or not these videos are actually being monetized is a whole different question. I think there's also a fair use argument to consider as well.
and Lauren,
Interesting.
sometimes these are re-edited in a certain way with different types of visual effects. Sometimes it's AI generations.
That would be the fair use argument that Sam just mentioned. Go on.
Sometimes
God,
it's
Sam, I'm
AI
sorry.
generations of these videos.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it's people dressed up, not quite in Spider-Man and Elsa era YouTube. These people aren't doing any nefarious acts or engaging in any type of content that would seem like you wouldn't want your kid to watch for uncouth reasons. But they are sometimes dressed up in Demon Hunters costumes or in costumes from SpongeBob SquarePants and those kinds of things.
Sonic is one we've seen recently, especially Chinese creators. There's been a lot of a big trend of dressing up like Sonic and trying to just harvest that Sonic the Hedgehog algorithm, which is apparently back, and it's not the only animation touchstone from the 90s that's being revived on YouTube Shorts.
And then these tracks that are set to these YouTube Shorts get billions of views because as YouTube counts the number of times these songs have been listened to, it's counting all these Shorts views, goes into that total in some capacity. And so that's how you get producers like ATLXS and their Paso Ben Solto track becoming one of the most listened to, if not the most listened to song on the biggest video sharing platform in the world.
My guess is it would just be pronounced Atlas, because this is a thing I've noticed in funk where they just put random X's where vowels should be.
We have the
Oh,
expert here.
wow.
I'm glad we do. And
Wow,
then Sam,
thank
and then
God.
Sam, we've also kind of noticed this trend where it seems like this could actually be an opportunity for IP holders to tap into this in a meaningful capacity. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. And you already see some of those IP holders doing exactly that. I mean, this really started, honestly, with Duolingo. The Duolingo owl became one of these Kidslop characters. You would see the Duolingo owl with Mr. Beast and Ronaldo in these weird videos for kids. And, if the Duolingo owl can do it, why not the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for example?
Yeah.
And that's why we're now seeing a revival of TMNT on YouTube with YouTube content. They're not making Kidslop themselves, but you can imagine if they get more attention going towards the turtles, then maybe the algorithm likes it more. Those become Kidslop characters. And now all of a sudden, kids are as excited about TMNT as they are about Sonic powering these top 50 channels on YouTube.
Yeah, it's providing this really interesting opportunity for brands with IP that kids could like to get into this ecosystem. And Sam, like you said, this soup and supercharge their basically brand awareness through just being kind of memeified in this Kidslop
Right.
content.
Wait, is this all shorts or is this long form as well?
This is all on shorts. I mean, some of these channels haven't even uploaded a single long form YouTube video.
And is there like who are the producers of this? Is it just random like channels that until now we'd never heard of, or like who's doing this?
The intersection between existing creators and this new stuff is happening in Roblox. You know, you're seeing Roblox creators embrace brain rot as a way to move up the leaderboard on shorts. And, you know, some of these top Roblox games are kind of IP soup in their own ways. I mean, Steal a Brain Rot, it's basically just, we're going to name drop every brain rot character within the context and the gameplay of this game. I think one thing that's interesting about TMNT specifically is colors. Like bright colors, you know, rainbow patterns are a huge driver of this type of short form viewership, because again, we're talking about in some cases preschoolers here.
Well, it's so funny when I hear bright colors now. This is a little bit of a tangent, but like there's this whole movement in branding right now where it's like back to the 90s with like bright, bright, bright colors, whereas like the last 10 years have been about simplicity and lines and clean lines or whatever. And now that has seemed to the kids, it seems very like old school and ew and like whatever. And they just want like colors, like they want like brand slop basically. Just like all like rainbows. And I was reading or seeing some video, I don't know, about that. And it totally makes sense. If you go to the store right now, you're like, oh yeah, all the young brands are just like, it's all color. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, in many ways, it's the divide between Gen Z and Gen Alpha. You know, Gen Z was always thought about as being vibey, as, you know, think about your typical Emma Chamberlain vlog, has very subdued colors.
Yeah.
Then you see Gen Alpha kind of take the reins of these digital platforms, and they're really going more back to like what it was when my millennials were that age, you know, just loud, bright, as you're saying, very 90s, very Lisa Frank, that whole vibe. So I do think that it's the generational shift that we're seeing on YouTube Shorts.
Raised on Cocomelon, fueled by Prime. We're here for big, bright colors.
Wow, oh God, sometimes he comes up with a real good nugget. That's a good one.
Sam, this is fascinating. Thank you so much for coming on. Love to have
you always.
Here. You can check out the
Of
charts
course.
at twofilter.com, as well as Sam's other writing there, diving into more Kidslop as we move forward.
And keep in mind, Heroes in a Half Shell, turtle power, baby.
Totally.
Sam, that was great. Love to have you as always. Go turtle power. I don't know, something. Josh, do you have any uploads or downloads?
Lauren, quick download for you. So Instagram,
you know it, you love it,
is getting a little bit of heat by influencers and creators and just the general public who's on Instagram. And it's because they released this test feature called Shop the Look. Basically, it was using AI to evaluate what kind of clothes were in influencers' posts.
Right.
And then it was giving consumers, viewers, Instagram users, the ability to then shop the look, to then go click out to those brand stores and then buy whatever was in the photo or
Sounds
video.
easy, sounds obvious. What's the problem, Josh?
The problem is, one, it's not that great yet. So it was not being entirely accurate on what the look actually was. Two, it wasn't offering any commission to these creators or these influencers or these people that were posting these. So that
did they opt into this?
I'm sure they opt into it through some kind
Right.
of obscure, we're going to test features for Instagram,
Right.
but not specifically this test. So that can mess up the brand deals that they previously have in
Right.
place. If they have any other type of affiliate marketing they're doing in those posts and more. And like we just kind of said, they didn't ask anybody to do this in the first
Yeah.
place. Creators don't like it when you, one, mess with anything in their videos. Two, mess with any ways they're getting money. And three, especially don't like 1 and 2 when you don't talk to them about it beforehand.
And they don't like it when the products are not the actual products, that it's not like the actual.
Totally, too.
Yeah. So they like I would see that as problematic.
I know this is all rented real estate on these different platforms, but I think the powers that be at these companies need to realize when you're going and you're messing with someone's feed or posts in any capacity whatsoever, it's basically like going into their home and just like moving some stuff
But
around.
I think to your point, it is rented real estate though, right? And I think that's what everybody forgets all of the time. And I think that like there's been a movement, as we've seen a lot in the last couple of years, of people building out their own businesses, their own owned and operated, because people did start to realize that. But then we all forget. You don't own this platform. You don't own this data. And ostensibly, per their terms of service, like they can do all these things. But then at the same time, if folks really don't like it, they will have a problem if everybody sort of leaves the platform because of that. So you have to also listen to your audience. But it's
But you want to have like a good landlord. Like you can be a good landlord.
But there are many bad landlords.
That's true. There are,
many
yeah.
bad ones. Quick upload for me. NatGeo's getting into the game of creator cohorts, which I think is really cool. Like, Best Buy, Starbucks, Ulta Beauty, Home Depot have done these things as well. And they're working with a few creators. And one of the coolest things about this is that they get to travel and create content from locations around the world. And I just think that's really cool. And there's about 10 creators, I think, including Maya Higa and adventure photographer Paige Tingley, archaeologist Dr. Teninger Kellenberger. Very cool. And they're going to do activations, integrate National Geographic programming and storytelling. I love this for NatGeo. I feel really good about this one. It made me really happy.
If I was a 20-something-year-old and had any type of social following online, this would be like a dream job. Sounds amazing.
Beyond. Totally agree. Okay, Josh, I think we did it.
Lauren, I think that's it. I'll see you practicing your turtle power catchphrases. Just start with like cowabunga.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
If not there, next week on Creator Upload. Today's show was produced by Lauren Schnipper, Joshua Cohen, that's me, and Adam Connor. It's edited by Adam Connor too. Original music is by London Bridge. You can check him out on Instagram at London Bridge Music. Make sure you subscribe to Creator Upload right here on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, as well Spotify, or wherever you're listening. While you're there, give us a rating and leave us a comment. If you want to talk, hit us up at info@creatorupload.com. If you like our show, recommend it to a friend. If you love it, just tell everyone. Thanks for listening to Creator Upload, and we will be back next week.